Welcome to Book Talk English. Hello everyone. This is ch.8. Today I will read the chapter 8 of a single chart. Skip the introduction and proceed to the main issue. Then, let's start. Chapter 8. Min began work on another setup in late basis. But before the drawing was complete, the emissary ship docked. Emissary Kim sent messengers to ask if any of the porters have anything new to show. Min waved the messenger away without a word. The next morning, the news blew through the village like a sudden sea breeze. The emissary had visited Gang's house. Gang had been chosen for the commission. Later that morning, 3 years swept up the remains of the destroyed bases in Min's yard. It was as he had guessed. All of the pieces bore traces of brown crowded glaze. 3 years felt numb with disappointment. He wondered how much worse it must be for Min. The porter had still not come out of the house with instructions for the days, so 3 years turned to the vegetable patch. He squatted it down and began to pull the first of 1,000 nauseous shoots that threatened the cucumber plant so precious to Min's wife. Someone called out from the front of the house. 3 years recognized the voice of the government official Lee. "Pardon me, the emissary is here. He wishes to speak with you." 3 years dropped the ragweed he was holding and stole around to the window at the side of the house. He could see little but heard everything. Min welcomed Emissary Kim, and the man of the royal courtesan to his home. They sat around a low table in silence. 3 years heard a clink of pottery as Min's wife served tea. Then Emissary Kim began to speak. "This innate work of your colleagues. It is something new and will be of a great interest to the court." There was a pause. 3 years imagined Min nodding in polite agreement. "I will speak with no veil over my thoughts, pardon me. Other aspects of Porter Gang's work are, how can I say it, not as much to my taste. Gang has been given what I will call a limited commission. We produce work for a court for a year to see if it pleases His Majesty." Kim hesitated, then continued. "I would far rather have given you the honor of a royal commission, but I would be remiss in my responsibilities if I were to ignore this new technique. It must be presented to the court. I will now return to Songdo, but if you were to produce something using this innate style and bring it to me in Songdo, I would guarantee a careful consideration of the work." 3 years could barely contain his excitement. "The charge!" He wanted to shout. "Show him the pieces from the rubbish heap. He's an expert. He would understand about the firing." But Min was speaking now. "The royal emissary honors me with his words, and I wish to disappoint no one. But I am an old man now. I could not possibly make the journey to Songdo. I thank the emissary for his consideration and beg his understanding for my failure." 3 years heard the swish of fine heavy fabric as the emissary rose to his feet and went to the door. The emissary spoke once more. "It is my wish that you find a way somehow, pardon me. It would be a great sorrow to me if this were to be the last time I saw your fine work." Then he and his entourage were gone. 3 years turned and slid down the wall, slumped over with his head in his hands. "The old fool," he thought. He did not wish the emissary to see the imperfect glaze. His pride kept him from a royal commission. The fool. Just then, Minzwai came around the house with a basket of laundry. 3-year jumped to his feet to help her. She nodded her thanks, calm as ever, as if the tumultuous event of the past few days had never happened. They stood on either side of the clothesline. He handed her the garments, and she hung them. Her serenity and the rhythm of the task helped soothe 3-year's raw nerves. Yet again, he wished he could think of a way to show his gratitude for her kindness. What was it she wanted? He wondered. She seemed to have no desire of her own, or perhaps her wishes were those of her husband's. Suddenly, an answer came to 3-year, as if calling from the clear sky. Do him a favor, a great favor. There was a way to thank her. Her husband's success, that was what she desired. Before he could think about it any longer, he heard himself speaking. I have a request to make of the Honorable Potter's wife, he said. Please, she replied. I am aware of the generous offer made by the royal emissary, he confessed, and glanced quickly at her. Her eyes crinkled in an amusement, so he knew she did not mind that he had eavesdrops. If the master make a vessel he considers worthy of the coast's attention, it would be my greatest honor to be allowed to take it to Songdo for him. Her face was partially hidden behind the linen sheet she was hanging. She fixed it firmly to the line before she answered. I will ask the master under one condition. She said, no, 2 conditions. The first is that you return to Drupo quickly and safely. 3-year bowed, puzzled. Why should it matter to her how he journeyed? And the second, she paused. The second is that from now on, you will call me Ozma. 3-year's eyes filled with tears. He bent to pick up another piece of laundry. Ozma meant something like auntie. It was a term of great affection, reserved only for her kinswoman. 3-year was kin to no one, and yet Minzwai wished for him to call her Ozma. He did not even know if he could say the word. Well, 3-year? The gentle teasing had returned to her voice. Do you agree to my conditions? 3-year nodded. He spoke from behind the clothes that flapped on the line. I agree, he said, then faltered. His voice fell to a whisper. I agree, Ozma. A few days later, 3-year crouched under the bridge, watching idly as Crayman shaved another silver of wood from the chopstick he was whittling. Without looking up, Crayman said, It is too bad that your dogs are not on a string. If they were, I would have given them a good yank by now to see what I could see. 3-year chewed on the inside of the cheek. He should have known it was folly to keep a secret from Crayman, even for a few days. I will be going on a journey soon, 3-year said. He meant to speak firmly, but his voice sounded loud and coarse instead. A journey, Crayman continued whittling. It is a good thing for a man to see the world if he can. Where would he go? 2 days before, Min had handed 3-year some tools to be cleaned, saying, The best will be finished by midsummer. If you have done, you will be able to return before the snow. In this way, 3-year learned that Min was sending him to Songdo. Since that moment, 3-year had regretted the rashness of his offer. He had never once left Drupo since his arrival as a toddler. How could he possibly think of making such a journey? It would take many days, over unfamiliar mountains where there might even be a path to follow, much less a road. He might well lose his way. And who knew what puddles awaited him? Robbers, wild animals, rock slides. What had he been thinking? But then, what was he to do? Tell me. he had changed his mind. No, going to Sunday was hardly possible, but not going was worse. Min has some work that must be transported for an audience at the royal court. Cranman put down his knife, leaned back, and crossed his arms. An audience at the court? What a little talk! My friend, why do you not say, I'm going to the capital to Songdo? 3 years swallowed. He rose to his feet and walked a few steps to the water's edge, picked up a flat stone and threw his silver skip across the water. 4 times it lit on the surface. How was it that a stone could be so like a bird? Cranman stood too and skipped a stone of his own. 6 touches. 3 years shrugged as a little smile stretched his lips. In early year under the bridge, he had never once defeated Cranman at his game. Together they watched until the ripples from the stone had melted away. I'm going to Songdo, 3 years said at last. As if testing the words, he looked at his companion pleadingly. It seemed too far away to say it. No, my friend, Cranman said. It is only as far as the next village. A day's work on your long legs. 3 years phoned, mystified. But before he could speak, Cranman continued. You might know that you are going to Songdo, but you must not tell your body. It must think one hill, one valley, one day at a time. In that way, your spirit will not grow weary before you have even begun to work. One day, one village. That is how you will go, my friend. 3 years watched as Cranman stirred up the water with his crutch a little. Then he raised the dripping crutch and pointed it at 3 years. I feel good now. To bring me some straw. You will need some extra sandals for such a journey, and who is to make them if not I? Min spent his time on the new set of vases, 1 or 2 of which would be selected to be taken to Songdo. In the meantime, the pace had slowed considerably for 3 years. So frenetically had he worked during the time surrounding the emissary's visit that he was ahead of schedule on his work. Plenty of wood filled the shed at the quayside. Birds of clay and bowls of sleep awaited Min's need. 3 years found himself idle on occasion, with too much time to think. And think he did, gathering his courage, until at last there was enough of it to enable him to stand before Min with a request. What is it now? Min asked. 3 years had lingered by the house at the end of the day, waiting for Min to look up from the wheel. Master, 3 years bowed. It is now more than a year that I have had the honor of working for you. A year. Yes, so? 3 years pulled in the muscles of the stomach to stop their creaking. I was wondering, if the master would be so good, if he thinks my work worthy. Min snapped. Ask your question or leave me in peace. If you'd one day be teaching me to make a pot. 3 years' words rushed out in a single breath. Min sat motionless for a long time. Long enough for 3 years to wonder if perhaps his request had been unclear. At last, Min stood and 3 years raised his head. Know this, orphaned one, Min said slowly. If ever you learn to make a pot, it will not be from me. 3 years could not stop himself. Why? He cried out. Why will you not teach me? Min picked up the half-formed vessel before him and slammed it back onto the wheel with such force that 3 years flinched it. Why? Min repeated. I will tell you why. The porter's voice was low, but shook with the effort of control. The porter trace goes from father to son. I had a son once. My son Hyungu has gone now. It is him I would have taught. You. 3 years saw the porter's eye, fierce with grief and rage. Min choked out the last words. You're not my son. This is the end of chapter 8. Last time I told you I can guess what the end of this book would be. How about you? Can you predict the story by listening to this shard-up story? Well, I've used the expression shard just now, which means piece. That is, a piece of glass or a piece of wood can be paraphrased with a shard of glass, a shard of wood. So the Korean title of this book is 사금팔이 한 조각. And 사금팔이 means broken pieces of china ware. That's why I have said that this book is associated with 고려 청자, which is the cover of this book. Then, why does the writer use the word of shard? I will give you another assignment. Find out what's the role of the single shard in this book. Isn't it something like a riddle? Well, have fun. Then now let's make the end of today. This is Cheyenne Lee, and see you next time in Book Talk English. Bye bye.